Welcome back. If you just finished my tutorial on the Artificer made martini, salute. If you haven't, I recommend it. Today, thought we'd get started with something that's really easy. This is something anybody can get their feet wet on, and it's one of these items where if you're buying them already made, you're just throwing your money away. And I'm going to see if you're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to swing this camera around. It makes me queasy every time I watch. Ooh. Oh yeah, there we go. So what I'm talking about are ball-headed copper head pins. This is a small one. Almost dropped it. And that is one piece. Very easy, incredibly easy. I'm going to walk you through it. Everybody can do this, and maybe you will. Alright, you're going to end up with a lot of views of my lower torso. I suppose I should apologize for that right now. Maybe I can bring you around the table with me. Alright, so to do this, that's not bad. To do this, we're going to need some basic supplies. Basic supplies include a torch. It doesn't have to be a big scary torch. What I found works good for a lot of these is what they call a pencil torch. You fill it up with butane, like you would fill a lighter up with. This one actually even has an electric start. You hear it? And there it is. That easy. For some of the larger stock, the larger pieces of metal, I use a propane torch. And again, this is something you can pick up for like 10-15 bucks sometimes. And for that, I'm talking about the kind where the torch head goes right on the top of the bottle. Now I'm using the yellow gas, the MAP style hotter burning gas for this, but it's not necessary. In fact, it's really unnecessary. It's just what I have on hand. Propane, regular propane will work. They make butane torches that are much larger than this. That'll work just fine too. I'll set this down. For our stock, right, that's the metal that we start with. I'm using a piece of braided copper wire. This used to have a plastic coating on the outside of it that I stripped off. And with the braided copper wire, you cut it to the length that you want, and then you unravel it. You pick this stuff up for 30-40 cents a foot, and there's maybe 24 strands in here. I have it disassembled into its basic components. You see them right here. Maybe they don't translate very well to video. And the next tool we're going to need is a pair of pliers. Really, we could use tweezers, we could use tongs. The reason we have pliers is because we don't want to be holding on to the metal while we're heating it. That's one of those common sense things. When you unravel this this braided metal, you'll notice it has a zigzag, kind of like when you have your hair up in braids for a real long time, and then you take the braids out. Maybe you can see I'm an expert on braids. Hey, some people want to use their testosterone to grow hair. Go figure. So don't worry about any zigzags in the wire like that. We'll take care of that after we're done. In fact, right now the metal's fairly hard and will resist having its shape changed. When we're done, the metal's just going to want to change shape. It's going to like us that much. So here's the torch again. And then what you'll see when you have most torch flames is that there'll be an outer cone of blue if you're using propane, or really most anything. And then there'll be an inner cone of brighter blue. The tip of that inner cone is the hottest point of the flame. And that's where you want to put it. Get a little closer. See, this metal gets bright red, and without waiting too long, the very tip will start to melt. And when it melts, it wants to achieve a sphere, and it will crawl, that sphere as it goes will crawl up the line. Now when it gets too big and too heavy, it will drip and it will fall right off the bottom, and then you got to start again, just like that. So you can only go so far before it drips. So you have to do a little bit of practicing, find out just where your limit is. And, you know, we're talking about 10 or 15 cents worth of metal to do 2 or 3 dozen of these. So if it takes a little bit of trial and error, you know, we're fine. I am not going to get this thing to focus. That's alright. So what we have is a little ball on the end of this wire that is probably 6 or 7 times the diameter of the wire, maybe 4 or 5 times. Because we don't like to touch hot things, I have a metal can over here that is full of water that you can dip down into, and then you can handle it just fine. Once we're done with that, you can rough it up with a little emery cloth or a little bit of sandpaper to polish it up, and you'll be just fine. What you end up with is, let's see if I've got one here. I did. Oh, I showed it to you at the beginning. Alright, so that's the technique for working with these little fine wires. What I found is kind of neat, that some of the wires in this braid are a little thicker than others. So you can get an idea of how this looks on a couple of different thicknesses. And it just balls and it starts crawling on up, and the heavier the wire, the heavier the wire, of course, the larger diameter of ball that you will get on the end. Gives a little sizzle going in there. Now, one of the other things I wanted to show was something a little bigger. You can also buy wire that's not braided, it's solid, of varying diameters. This one looks like it's about maybe a 6. It looks bigger than a 1/16 of an inch, but it could be a 1/16 of an inch. Might be whatever's a little bit bigger than that. Now this one is actually a little bit too much for this butane torch to handle, but it would be just fine with a propane torch, which is a lucky thing that I happen to have one. So demonstrating this with a little thicker wire may do a little bit better as far as showing us what all is involved, what all is going on. It might translate a little better to video. 3 times the diameter of this wire. Maybe I could have got it a little bigger. Every one of these comes out a little bit different. See if we can... I'll lay these down, we can have a closer look this way. So there it is. Like I said, there's just nothing to it. As opposed to cinematography in general. You have 3 different thicknesses of wire and a little different effect you get from each. And then you can finish those up with, like I said, a little bit of light sandpaper, or you can dip them in a little bit of what's this stuff? Snowball. That'll take the char marks off real quick, and you're ready to go. You can use it however you do.